Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to part 3 of my tutorial using this portrait of Alexandra Dowling, working in graphite on a smooth Bristol surface. This is actually not the smoothest Bristol. It's I bought 2 different kinds, and there's this one here, this one, which is extremely smooth, and I've done a portrait on that. You can check it out on my Instagram channel. If you look up Studio Dlin on Instagram, there's a recent portrait I did of Michelle Lewin, who's a fitness model, and I did it on that surface, and I learned a lot doing it on that surface. Almost perfectly smooth. And now I'm working with this one, which is not quite as smooth, but still extremely smooth. Much more so than this, which is the paper that I learned on, and the paper I still really like using this paper a lot. It's just nice to work with a different surface, different properties and things that you get. Also, before I get into this one today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about erasers, because I'm kind of excited. I bought a new eraser. The things that can make you excited when you draw. So I work with a bunch of different kinds of erasers depending on what's going on. I have this one here, which it's a Derwent mechanical eraser. It has this this eraser on the tip here, and you press a button and the eraser rotates, and that's quite good and quite handy for precision erasing. I use, of course, the kneaded eraser. You know, these are fantastic for working for taking out graphite when you want to just take out a little bit, not necessarily completely erase. You can pull lights with this. You know, for example, there's a spot here on her nose that I'm gonna make a highlight, so I'll just, that's not the final highlight, but you can see what that does there. These are great for that. You can make them into any shape you want, so a lot of times, you know, I'll make a little point and use it to pull very specific lights. Not really the stage of the drawing where that's supposed to happen though, so just example. Then you've got your standard white eraser. You know, I'm a teacher, a lot of my students have these just for erasing their work. This is great for erasing big areas. It takes off the graphite pretty well. I do find you have to work it pretty hard sometimes, as in dig it into the paper. And then there's this type here. I actually, to be honest, don't know what this is called. This one I really like for taking a lot of graphite off very effectively. It does, when you use it, it sort of sheds really heavily onto the paper. No big deal, you just blow it off, but it's really effective at moving a lot of graphite. Not very good for fine detail, although there are times where I deliberately carve an edge and then use it to pick some fine detail. So those are all erasers that I've worked with and used for various reasons. And then I'm pretty excited because today I bought this one. This has this, it's like a pencil, but it's got this tiny eraser tip here on the end. And I think it's going to come in handy when I'm working with hair. Hair is one of the most difficult things for me, one of the biggest challenges, and I still don't love the way the hair works out when I do hair. I went to a special art store today and I bought that. This is what the package looks like. See if I can get it in the light. 2.3 millimeter round eraser. Looks like that. Looks like a pencil. We'll see how that goes. And I bought some refills for it because, you know, when I run out, who wants to have to go back to the store right away? Okay, speaking of hair, oh yeah, and also I bought pencil extenders when I was at the Crafts at the Art store today. I have a lot of 3B pencils that, because that's the pencil I go through most quickly, and I have a lot of little ones, and they get so short that that I find I don't want to use them because I don't get the same feel when they're short. So this This pencil extender came in a 2-pack. It was $10 for the 2 pencil erasers. Should pay for itself in pencils that I don't throw away until they're really used up. Okay, so speaking of the hair, today I think I really want to work for this part of the tutorial. I really want to work on her hair. Her ear also I'll probably do some work on, but maybe I'll wait until I've got some hair in. So the hairstyle is quite elaborate. It's and difficult to see the line work, I know, especially since my lamp is up here, and so this part of the page is in a lot of light. Actually, I'm going to try and twist the lamp a little bit and reduce the glare. I know you can't see what I'm doing. Did that reduce the... Oh, I'll reduce the glare a little bit. Maybe I'll twist it a little bit more. Okay, yeah, I guess that's the best we're gonna get. It's actually quite dark now for me, but for the camera I think it's fine, and I can see well enough. So she has this very elaborate hairstyle. It kind of wraps around and then it's twisted into a bun on the top, and there's beadwork running through it. I mean, this is a picture of her in her costume as Queen Anne, which is the part she plays on the Musketeers. And the makeup and hair people must love getting her ready for shooting, because everything is so elaborate. One of the awesome things about the show is how elaborate the costumes and the sets and the hair and everything is. Really so cool. I mean, one of the reasons why I love watching the show is just because they've put so much work and effort into everything, every little detail about the show. And as a viewer, you just appreciate it for what it is. It's a masterpiece. Okay, enough talk, more draw. So what I'm going to do at first is what I always do. I'm taking a 3B pencil, using my new pencil extender, and I start to draw the hairs. I'm not really drawing the hairs. I think of it like drawing hairs, but this is not really what happens. I'm just drawing lines that you can think of as hair in the direction of the hair mass. You know, there's different masses of hair in just about every hairstyle, and I like to start by drawing lines that give me a sense for the flow. You know, the hair, think of hair when you're drawing it not like individual strands of hair. Anybody who does tutorials on hair will say the same thing. Don't think of the individual strands. That'll drive you insane. Plus, if you try, it doesn't even look that good. Think of these masses of hair and think of it flowing. I think of it actually a lot like water flowing when I'm drawing hair. You're gonna find, as I do this, I actually make a lot of mistakes when I'm working with hair. I'm aware of them. I do my best not to make them, but one of the things that happens is my strokes curl, and I try to be super conscious of that, because I don't know how well it shows in the camera. In fact, I'm looking at the screen right now, and I think it's still too bright. So I'm going to fool around with the settings on the lamp and see if I can make that a little bit less bright. Nope. So I'll turn it away some more. Yeah, there's a lot of natural light coming. There's a window right behind the desk, and I guess the natural light is going to have to do, since the lamp light is washing out the picture for the camera. So what I was saying was, the strokes that I use for the hair, let's zoom in a little bit. The strokes that I use for the hair, they're not great for hair strokes. I end up fixing it as I go, but I'm really working on creating smoother lines when I do hair. long flowing lines. So right now, I just try and make the flow in the direction of the hair. So there's only a little bit of hair showing on the on her right side because of the way that her face is turned. So I don't have to work too much on this side. Just trying to, again, generate that flow into this mass over here. And let me zoom out a little bit so we can see the top of her head. And just trying to begin to, using the flow, the strokes that I draw, I'm separating these masses of hair. And in this case, because she's got a lot of beadwork in her hair, which I've roughed in when I did the line work, I'm trying to be conscious of where that is as well. Okay, and it comes down here on the side and kind of goes up and down to the back, up and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, like that. I'm not going to keep saying that. That's boring, but that's what I'm thinking. Patience also very important when you're working with hair. I definitely have a tendency to get impatient when I'm working with hair. I want it to be done, and I feel like because there's so many strands of hair that you can get away with just going really quickly. That actually can work, but it doesn't give the effect that I'm after, so you have to be more patient than that when you're working with hair. Okay, now this, I'm going to come and work my way down to her ear. The hair stops just at the top of her ear, covers a little bit of the top of her ear, but doesn't go much further than that. There's also a border between the side of her face and the hair that I haven't resolved, but I'll make sure to do that with some darker strokes. I'm definitely using the chiseled edge of the pencil for these. This is not shading, although there is a lot of shading that one has to do. In hair, I'm not in that stage right now. Okay, we've got up here, I'm maneuvering my hand inside the legs of the tripod. Also not something I'm used to. Okay, up here there's a little volume that they've wrapped around to create this bun. And the beadwork is actually separating two volumes of hair. Okay, and then there's this top part of the bun that kind of comes out from the side and goes around from here, comes up, and then wraps around here. The hairstylist for this show must have a blast with this. And then there's like another layer of hair that they've managed to create up here, tucks into itself, making sure to leave room for these beads. Then there's like a rope of hair here. It's possible that this is hidden, what I'm doing, hidden by the light, by the wash of the light. It's like a coil of hair, and then there's some on the top that juts out. And there's a string of beads, which I'll just sort of draw there. There's a string of beads here, and there's a string of beads here. And actually seems to connect up here, so I'll use my imagination for that one. I don't fully get how they've done it. Not a hairstylist. Although when you're drawing hair, you have to think like one. So I've posted parts 1 and 2 of this drawing on my YouTube channel. If you're watching this first, then you might want to check out parts 1 and 2. This is a drawing that I've been filming from the beginning, completely from. Well, actually, that's not true. Not from the beginning. I did the outlines and the line work before I started filming, so that I could focus on the shading in the hair for the tutorial. Okay, there's a line, some beadwork here, string of beads here. Yeah, definitely check out parts 1 and 2 if you haven't. And that's where I went through the shading in the face, which isn't complete, but sometimes when I'm working, different parts of the drawing sort of talk to me and they say, you must complete me. Not the same way that they say in romantic movies, you know, you complete me, but just you must work on this part of the drawing. And I guess what it does, it's psychological for me. There's just parts of the drawing that at first I'm not worried about the fact that I can't see them. And then as I work through the drawing, it starts to bug me that I can't see them. Okay, the side of her head is really outlined over here by the shadows created by her hair. So I'm just going to go and shade that in. And I'm sort of roughly shading into the hair region, but I don't want to do that I don't want to commit too much at this stage to dark shades, dark tones. I just want to get a sense of the where the hair defines her head and where it sort of just grows from her head, extends from her skull, which is what hair does. In case you didn't know, extends from your skull. And there's some wisdom for you. Hair extends from your skull. Okay. And I am working to define, using shading to define the shape of these volumes now. This is nothing final at all, not even close, but it starts to give me a sense of shape. Okay, there's just some highlights up here, a little darker as it curls over to the back, so I'll do some dark there, thinking cylinder here, and then here kind of swoops under and up. So let me show that to myself so that I keep that in mind. There's this there's this tight rope of hair up here, really, really tightly curled, making a very, very tight cylinder here, and a volume here that comes around. Okay, and this region, it wraps around behind her head, so I'll just start to suggest that. And then here the same, but in a different direction, wrapping from the top and then swooping under. And then all down here, quite dark as far as how much light it's not catching very much light here. This is the side of her face, side of her head that's much more in, not should I say much more, it's more in shadow than the other side, so the hair's not really catching much light on this side. I haven't made this thick enough here on her right side, so let me just fill that in. There's a curl here, kind of curls towards the back. Another curl here that kind of curls towards the back. this dark region that I'm creating on the side of her head actually extends into the hair. So I'll extend that a little bit with some shading. I'm very, very light pressure on the pencil right now. Almost no pressure at all. I like to, as much as possible, not put pressure on the pencil and let the pencil and gravity do what the pencil was designed to do. There's a reason why pencils come in different softnesses. And if you try to, I find if I try to defeat that, if I try to get a darker shade with a harder pencil by pressing harder, you know, I'm working against the purpose of the pencil, the intent of the manufacturer. So if I want to go darker, I very often remind myself, you know what, just take a softer pencil, and you don't have to change the pressure that you're using. When I first started drawing, that wasn't my thinking at all. I would just, you know, try and get a wide range of tone with one pencil. And you know, that's a legitimate way to draw. There are a lot of people who do that. Some folks actually just use one pencil for the entire portrait, and that's really amazing to me. They just vary the pressure and the layers and so on as they work. I think that's really cool. A cool way of dealing with it. It's not something that I'm used to doing. And I really, you know, I think at this point I don't really feel like that's a bad thing. I've developed this style of using the set of pencils. So I have a set of pencils, a set of styler pencils. It goes from 6H, which is the hardest one in the set, to 8B, the softest one in the set. And really, I use all of them. Like, to me, there's a difference between a 6H and a 5H and a 4H. It's not much of a difference, and it's entirely possible that it's psychological. But whatever it takes, right? Whatever works. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a separation here. There's two volumes of hair here. So I'm going to show some curls dipping in there. And then these ones kind of they kind of meet in a valley of hair here. So I'll just start to show that. Okay. I think I can probably turn the lamp back towards the drawing. It's getting hard for me to see what I'm doing. Yeah, that looks okay on the camera, I think. I mean the drawing looks okay. At this stage it actually looks not okay at all, but that's okay. I mean, it doesn't look okay, and that's okay. It's not supposed to look right at this stage to me. It's just supposed to give me hints about what to do. So now what I'm going to do is I've done some strokes in the direction of the hair, and I've done some shading of the hair as though it's a solid volume. Really, that's the way to treat hair, unless you're, I don't know if anybody draws strand by strand. Maybe some people think they are. How many strands of hair would you have to draw? No lie, I did try it first. So that's what I thought you had to do. You don't draw strand by strand. You do a lot of shading, and then you hint at the strands. So now I'm going to take my trusty Q-tip and actually blend this. When I'm blending the hair using my Q-tip, I don't worry about getting it smooth like I do with the skin. That's not what it's about. It's just about getting graphite into some of the spaces where I didn't, which creates a thickness. You know, when I was a kid, my teens, I had pretty impressive hair. That was one of my things. And I used to buy all these shampoos to, you know, make your hair thicker and make your hair lustrous and whatever, because this was the 80s and feathering was in. You know, my hair was parted in the middle and feathered to the sides. Pretty cool. And what I'm saying is, or what I'm getting at is, I used to buy all this product to try and get my hair thicker. And then, you know, now I'm 46 years old, and I realized the trick to thick hair is a Q-tip. That's all you got to do. Just run a Q-tip through your hair, and that creates thickness. Yeah, wonder if Alexandra Dowling is aware of the Q-tip trick, or if her hairstylist is. She shows up for hair and makeup. Oh man, I you know, how early does she have to show up for hair and makeup with this kind of elaborate hairstyle? So yeah, shows up for hair and makeup on the first day of shooting of Musketeers, and the hairstylist says, in an English accent, which I'm not going to replicate, yeah, we've got a Q-tip. That's my styling tool. Surprise. Okay, as you can see, I'm not being very precise. It's okay, it doesn't matter at this point to be precise with this blending. Just introducing thickness into the hair is all I want to do. And then at this point, I'll be coming back to it and alternately shading, blending, drawing, hinting at strands, and slowly bringing the hair out. Okay, there's some stuff going on the left here. Sorry, on her right, that I'm not in love with what I've done. My fault. This looks weird. So let me come in a little more precise and get this going a little bit more interesting. It just kind of looks silly at the moment. I'm sort of drawing using the same stroke. You start with a sort of a thick stroke, and then you taper as you go. It creates the kind of effect you want with hair, I guess. And it's funny because these strokes that I'm doing won't even last through the next blending phase, but if you're true to it every time, then eventually there's strokes that survive the blending because you don't blend, or you've done it so many times that they survive. And you end up getting a look that's decent. I've watched quite a few tutorials on hair, and there are some real masters out on YouTube of how to do hair, how to draw hair, how to render it, how to make it look realistic without, of course, drawing every single hair. So now I'm doing the same thing that I was doing before, using strokes in the direction of the flow of the hair. Still using a 3B. Her hair is actually, the hairstyle that she's got there's a lot of loose hairs coming out at the end, but I'll save those. I find with the loose hairs coming out of a hairstyle, I find when I try and do those accurately, it doesn't work very nicely. So a lot of times I'll just do like one or two, just to show the viewers, you know, they're there, these loose hairs, and one or two loose hairs tends to do the job. I'm not really satisfied with doing one or two. You can, when you know how to do it, you can do more. But I just find at the stage of my drawing journey, if I try to do more than one or two of the loose hairs, I ruin it. Then I pull out the eraser and angrily erase what I've done. trying to do these good hair strokes here in the direction of the flow of the hair. There's highlight here at the moment. That's not really a big deal, but even still I'm trying to stay away from that region. I don't want to make it too dark. I do that at each stage, at each layer of hair. I respect the highlights. Eventually I'm going to use that kneaded eraser to really emphasize those highlights. But for now, I'm just hinting at them by staying away from laying down too much graphite where the highlights are supposed to be. I'm also thinking about these beads, and I don't want to draw them in yet, because they're just going to get there's too many layers still to come. But I think I want to just for myself. I want to emphasize there's a really big bead here that's casting shadow onto the hair. I think it's safe for me to draw the cast shadow of that bead. I think I just made the bead smaller by drawing the shadow in too close. There's a cast shadow here off of this bead and cast shadow here. There's a bead here and here. Yeah, I don't like what I did with that big bead at the top at all. Let me fix that. Okay, sometimes I find if you're working in a very fine area with a kneaded eraser, it doesn't do what you want. So I'm going to take the mechanical eraser and take out this graphite that I put in. Okay. That's better. Now, let me sharpen this 3D. And be a little bit more careful. Part of what's happening to me is I'm drawing within the confines of the tripod, and I'm not used to doing that. But that's okay. Okay, that's better. Much better. Actually, I feel like shading in that bead. I feel like shading in a sphere and showing the highlight. So that one bead at the top of her head, I'll do some work on that. Okay, let me start with a 6H pencil. And just lightly shade here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to turn the lamp away. I don't know how well that shows on the camera. I'm looking at the camera screen and I don't think you can really see too well what I'm doing. So maybe I won't spend too much time here. Just putting some graphite down very, very lightly with 6H, which is the hardest pencil, meaning the softest shade, softest tone, lightest tone, hardest pencil, lightest tone. And I'm leaving the highlight. In the center of the sphere, not the center, but there's a nice, it's a pearl, or, well, it's probably a fake pearl, but that 6H did a nice job for a first layer. And now I think I'll take a 2H and introduce some transition tone to this. And maybe use the 2H to darken the region around the highlight. Because it's a pearl, it's not just about shading the sphere, but also introducing the features of the surface of a pearl. Never really done this before. Okay, I think the way the camera shows and the way the light is washing that out, I'm not going to spend too much time there. Alright. I think the hair is not even close to done. I gotta tell you, it's very much probably another hour on the hair, which I'm not going to do right now. I'm going to, I'll just zoom in a little bit and show you what I've got on the hair. Now I'm going to zoom out, adjust the camera towards the center. Okay, I'm going to work on her ear. So I'm going to take, I think I'll take a 3H, or maybe an H. Yeah, an H. Let me find it. There's the H. Let me sharpen it. And I'll put down a layer of tone here for her ear using the H. Very, very lightly, as I very often say, very, very lightly. Just gravity in the pencil. Doing what the pencil manufacturers intended. The funny thing about these harder pencils, the H's, the 6H, 5H, etc. I was interested, how are pencils made, and I found a video on YouTube that shows how they're made, and they're all, it's all graphite, but how do you change the hardness of the pencil? And what they do is they use a combination of clay and graphite, and the more clay, the harder the pencil, and then they start to use wax to bind the graphite for the softer pencils, for the B pencils. And I notice sometimes when I'm working with the harder pencils in the H range, that suddenly I'll catch, it makes me feel like I've caught a piece of clay on the pencil, and you can hear it scratching against the paper, and then you just sort of keep working, don't panic, and it just works itself out. Okay, that looks pretty good as far as the tone goes that I wanted. Let me blend that out with the Q-tip. I'm looking at my collection of used Q-tips on the side here that I know you can't see, and they all have too much graphite, so time for a clean one. And just smooth this out, what I've done. And right now, the ear looks very flat. And ears are not. They're full of contour and dips and stuff like that. So now I'll take a darker pencil. I think I'll take the 3B and get some of those deep shadow wells in. So the way that her earlobe is, it's of course the earring is pulling the earlobe down a little bit here. Actually, I'll do the little where the earring, where the hole is, where the piercing is, and then there's like a fleshy part of her earlobe here which turns in and faces the side of her face. So there's a shadow created by that, and that shadow actually creates a rhythm that leads into this deep part. And we'll use that shadow to define the little piece of skin, cartilage I guess, that protrudes. Yeah, I gotta create more shadow here. And then there's this deep area, deep region. This is now not hair, but ear. And digging under this flap of cartilage. I don't know, it sounds so... I don't know what that sounds like. Doesn't sound flattering, this flap of cartilage. guess that's what it is. I think the hair comes a little bit lower. Draw some hair in there. Okay, now let's put some graphite down here. And start to define this dip. And the dip kind of opens out, and then there's this other ridge of cartilage. On her ear, this is all in darkness back here, and then there's this ridge of cartilage. There's some shadow being thrown in from the hair up here. And then she's got this other ridge which is lined by shadow. And then a little bump here, creating some shadow in here. And then there's some interesting ridges here. Okay. I find there's just so much going on in the ear, and when you first start trying to work it, it looks totally fake. It doesn't look right at all. And then you can do a lot of repair, or I guess not repair, a lot of refining when the Q-tip comes out. And then you sort of look back and say, okay, I've put information down, which gives me something to work with. What do I need to refine? Yeah, her ear's definitely looking fat the way that I've done it, and she does not have a fat ear. I might have gotten the proportions wrong on the ear. I mean, I get the proportions wrong all the time, but sometimes it's fine, it's close enough, but I think I may have, or maybe it's just the fact that I'm not shading the way I should be. Okay, there's a crease as the earring is pulling the piercing. Alright, let me see what happens when I take a Q-tip to that, see if it looks any better. I'm really not in love with how it's looking at the moment. So we'll start by blending this in. Get a dark region in, comes out very light. This is darker here. There's a shadow as her ear, the bottom of her ear points away from the light, pointing down, this the curve here, creating shadow. I don't want to lose the hoop, or the hook itself. There's a shadow notice. I mean, it's a slight shadow from the hook. Smooth that out. See what I've done. See if I like it. May have to get the kneaded eraser and pull some of the highlights that I seem to have done away with. Okay, let me see how that works. Let me grab the kneaded eraser and pull some highlights here and here, a little bit here. Definitely this region here is catching a lot of light, and I took that away when I hit it with the Q-tip. So we'll put that back. And there's a part here, this little cartilage flap is catching some light, and then there's a nice little turnout here that catches light before it turns back in. Do I like it? I mean, I like it better than after I finished with the Q-tip. But I don't love it. Okay, let me bring the Q-tip back now. And soften those edges that I created with the eraser. Oh man, that's a terrible looking ear. Not good. Not good. Gonna have to rescue the ear. Can it be rescued? That's a bit better. This is too harsh back here. That's a bit better. Too much highlight there. A bit better. Maybe that cartilage is a little too big, so we'll add some shadow here to make that a bit smaller. Darken this just to show the deepness of it. And throw in some cast shadow here. And there's a divot here that she's got. And then work that area of shadow into the side of her face as well. Yeah, sometimes I find doing narrated videos, sometimes I'm so concentrating so much on what I'm doing, I forget to talk. Sorry about that. Okay, how's that ear looking now? Still, it's too light. Darken that. I took out too much graphite. That's okay, you can put it back with a Q-tip. Blend this into the side of her face. I think it's a bit better. Maybe there needs to be a little bit of highlight just where the earring is pulling at the piercing. Yeah, that's too much, but that's okay. Still too much. Oh, that looks okay. Ears and noses. I think I've come along farther with my work on noses than I have with my work on ears. But live and learn. And when you get it right, it just feels awesome. Even if you get it close to right. You know, it's not the best ear, but it looks pretty good. And I think for now, a little more blending here. I'm not super in love with how it looks, but I think it's not terrible. I'm gonna come down and just I think I made this angle too much here between her earlobe and the side of her face, so let me curve that a bit more. And this is very dark here, so let me darken that. Gently, don't overdo it. Increase the angle there. Okay. Very dark area here. Here, dark. I'm just talking, saying dark over and over again. Are you learning something by hearing me say dark over and over again? Maybe you're wondering that I'm a weirdo. Dark. Reminds me of watching curling. Sweep. Okay, get the Q-tip. Okay. There's a spot here that's too light. Just trying to average this region out here. Okay, I think I can live with this. I think, though, this dark region here has to blend more with this dark region. Maybe I'll find a Q-tip that has more graphite on it. Here's one. Okay, I think that's fine. So there's a part of her chin that I was looking at, and I wanted to fix that a little bit, just a little bit too much highlight. So I'm going to come in a little bit into the highlight with some graphite tinged Q-tip. Yeah, I like that better. And over here on her cheek, yeah, I like that better too. And there's this part of her nose which seems to terminate a little too suddenly. It goes from dark to light too suddenly right over here. So taking a clean Q-tip, and I'm just gonna get this to be a smoother transition. Almost joining this, but not quite. Her nose is very round. She doesn't have angles, too many angles in her nose at all. Some women do. I mean, guys often do. Some women have more angles than others. She has some down near the nostrils, some harsh-ish angles, but definitely up here, very, very round. Very round. Okay, let's get that brow ridge over the nose showing a little bit. Okay, I suppose that's fine for now. And once you've got darker areas in your drawing, you can sort of get the Q-tip in there and it picks up graphite, and then you can use that to introduce subtle changes in tone. That's the thing with drawing portraits of women. It's these subtle changes in tone. You'd be surprised what can make a difference. So I'm just working in the forehead now, obviously, but there's some highlight in the center of her forehead, and I'm just trying to begin to show that more to myself, you know. Okay, I think what I'll do now is spend some time on her mouth, and then maybe I'll call that the end of part 3. So I've got the 3B here, and I'm going to darken this corner to show that it's pointing down. and here as well, down and in, and the border between the upper and lower lips, we can define that a little bit more with the edge of the 3B. And now I'll use the some more precise strokes, and I'll do some of those shapes that are created by the creases. I don't know, you can't really see it, or maybe you can, but I see it. The creases define these shapes. And then I'll take a Q-tip and blend that. It does tend to take away the definition of the shapes, but the more you do it, the more they last. Oh, there's too much of a line here. Okay, it's not bad. There's a little bit of graphite here, and now I'm going to. I always like to do creases for the bottom lip. They tend to show more anyway, but also the bottom lip tends to curve out a lot, and the creases give you a way to show that. Especially her bottom lip. She has a really thick, pouty bottom lip. It's funny because it's small as far as like the shape that it takes, but very full. Okay. I think I did something with the Q-tip just now that changed the definition. So let me just take some of that out with the kneaded eraser. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll take more out and then I'm going to put some back in. Okay, and I'm going to put some back in with a different pencil. I've been using the 3B. I'm going to take 2H and put some back in using the 2H. I want to keep it nice and smooth. And this area is now too small for me to smooth with a Q-tip. So I'm going to take this this blending stomp, I don't know, some people call it that. Stomp or stomp, I don't know. It's got some graphite on the tip, which I don't want, so I'm going to use some sandpaper that I have on the side here to sharpen it / get the graphite off. And then I'll just gently move the graphite around here. In her upper lip. Okay, I think that's better than what it was before. Do a little bit down here as well. Yeah. Yeah, that looks okay. So, I'm not sure if this part 3, I've actually spent quite a bit of time, and it doesn't look like the drawing has changed much, but of course I spent a lot of time on the hair and the ear, little finicky things. And since I decided this tutorial would be a real-time thing, I guess this is what you get. So hopefully, look what I've done. I shouldn't have done that. Okay. Take the kneaded eraser, try and undo that damage. Yeah. This is too fuzzy around the edge now. Let me sharpen that. Okay. I'm just gently dabbing this area to pull up some graphite. I feel like it's too dark. Okay. I think that'll do for now. Probably when I come back and look at it, I'll have other ideas about what to do with that ear. Okay, I think that's the end of part 3. I don't think that is the end of part 3. And thanks again so much for watching. And please, please, by all means, subscribe to my channel. Give the video a like. Feel free to comment, feedback on anything you think you liked, didn't like, whatever it is. I'm always looking to improve. Thanks so much. See you next time. Bye.